What if the ultimate secret to unlocking the universe wasn't found in a complex scientific formula or a telescope or some impenetrable philosophical text?
Right.
What if the key to literally everything was actually found in the exact same emotion you feel when you look at someone you love?
Oh, it's a wild thought.
It really is. Today, we are exploring a 19th century text that argues every single human desire, and I mean every single one, even the greedy, selfish ones, is actually a misplaced search for the exact same cosmic force.
Yeah, the exact same energy.
Welcome to another deep dive for the Simplified Summary channel. I'm your host, and before we jump in, just a quick, humble ask. If you find value in this journey of knowledge today, please hit the subscribe button, like the video, and share it with a friend who loves exploring profound ideas. It really helps the channel bring more of these deep dives to you.
It's great to be here, and this journey truly is profound. I'm here to help unpack this. Our mission today is to unpack a very specific, intricate philosophy of love. We are drawing from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, focusing heavily on Volume 3.
Right, this section on Bhakti.
Exactly. Specifically, his teachings on Bhakti Yoga and Bhakti, which translates to supreme devotion. We're going to explore how this philosophy presents love not just as a fleeting human emotion, like the butterflies in your stomach.
Yeah, the rom-com stuff.
Right, not that, but as the fundamental underlying motive power of the entire universe.
Wow.
And more importantly, we want to show how this provides a clear, practical path for you, the listener, to move beyond our modern state of constant information overload and find a deeply personal yet completely universal connection to the world around you.
Okay, let's unpack this because that is a massive claim. We're taking love, something we usually relegate to pop songs, and elevating it to the literal gravity of the human soul.
It's heavy.
Yeah, it is. But to really understand the weight of these ideas, we have to start by setting the stage. We are traveling back to September 1893.
A pivotal moment.
Picture this. You have the world's Parliament of Religions in Chicago. You have representatives from all over the globe, but then Swami Vivekananda steps onto the platform. And from what I understand from the notes, he wasn't there to just represent one narrow, specific sect, right?
Exactly. He spoke in the name of what he called the Mother of Religions.
The Mother of Religion.
Yeah, representing millions of Hindu people of all classes and sects. But that historical context is crucial because of the specific message he delivered to that crowd. He didn't just advocate for tolerance.
Which is what we usually hear.
Right. Now think about the word toleration. It's a buzzword today. We hear it all the time. But Vivekananda's core message went a step further, and frankly, it was radical for 1893, and it's still radical now.
What did he say?
He stated, "We believe not only in universal toleration, but we accept all religions as true."
Wait, all of them?
All of them.
Because logically, how does that even work when religions contradict each other constantly?
Yeah.
Tolerating someone means, I think you're wrong, but I'll let you be. Accepting that you're true alongside me is a completely different ballgame.
It is a massive paradigm shift. To illustrate this, Vivekananda pointed to a hymn he remembered from his earliest boyhood. It compares humanity's different religious paths to different streams.
What?
Think of a mountain range. These streams might originate in entirely different places. One might start in a glacier, another from a spring.
Right.
Some streams are crooked, winding through valleys, others are straight and rushing. But ultimately, where do they all go?
They hit the ocean.
Exactly. They all mingle their water in the exact same sea. He was proposing that all sincere paths, despite their contradictory outward appearances, lead to the same ultimate reality.
It's a beautiful image, the streams flowing into the ocean, but it immediately makes me wonder why we struggle so much with that concept in reality. I mean, why do human beings tend to fight to the death over who has the right path?
That's the human condition.
There is a memorable story he told at the Parliament to explain this, the one about the frog in a well.
Oh, that's a classic.
I read it, and it goes like this. There's this little frog who has lived its entire life in a small well. It was born there, it clears the water of worms, it gets a little sleek and fat, and it naturally assumes this well is the entire universe.
Right.
Nothing exists outside of these brick walls. Then one day, another frog falls into the well, and this new frog says it comes from the sea.
And how does the well frog react?
The well frog takes a leap across his little well and asks, "Is your sea as big as this?"
Naturally.
And the sea frog basically laughs and says, "It's nonsense to compare the vast, infinite sea to a tiny, enclosed well." So the well frog takes another huge leap, decides the sea frog is a complete liar, and wants him thrown out of the well.
He just can't handle it.
He literally cannot fathom anything bigger than his own immediate surroundings.
What's fascinating here is how perfectly this story illustrates the psychological root of sectarianism and bigotry.
Yeah.
And it's not just about 19th century religion.
No, not at all.
Every single worldview, or even every ideological bubble we create for ourselves today on social media, tends to act just like that frog.
Oh, that is so true.
We sit in our own little well, our customized news feeds, our political tribes, our cultural groups, and we assume it represents the absolute totality of existence.
Yep.
The Christian sits in his well, the Hindu in his, the atheist in his, and they all think their well is the whole world. Vivekananda's entire mission, starting on that stage in Chicago, was to break down the walls of those little wells and introduce humanity to the ocean.
That makes total sense when you map it on to how we act online today. We immediately block or cancel the sea frog because they disrupt the reality of our little well.
Exact.
But to get us out of the well, Vivekananda had to redefine how we fundamentally see ourselves.
Right.
In his paper on Hinduism from that same parliament, he challenges the very core of our identity.
He really does.
I'm looking at this, and we usually walk around thinking, I am a physical body, and maybe, if I'm lucky, I have a soul tucked away inside. But he explicitly flips that. He declares that man is not a body with a soul, but a spirit living in a body.
Yes, and that distinction is everything. If you believe you are primarily a body, your entire existence becomes about protecting and indulging that physical form.
Right, survival comfort.
But if you accept his premise that we are eternal spirits currently utilizing a physical form like a temporary set of clothes, then the ultimate goal of human existence shifts dramatically.
How so?
Well, the philosophy makes a fascinating distinction between the concept of the world and the concept of God. When Vivekananda talks about the world, he doesn't mean the physical planet, the trees, or the mountains. He uses world as a synonym for selfishness.
Okay.
And when he speaks of God, he means pure unselfishness.
So getting closer to God just means becoming less selfish.
Exactly. Therefore, whether someone identifies as a brilliant philosopher pursuing knowledge, a social worker engaging in charity, or a devout person praying in a temple, the ultimate point of convergence for all of them is complete self-abnegation.
Giving up the ego.
Yes. It is the readiness to sacrifice the selfish ego entirely.
Which brings us perfectly into the heart of Volume 3 and the concept of Bhakti Yoga. Because, look, telling someone the goal is complete unselfishness sounds great on paper, but how do you actually get there? We are deeply selfish creatures by nature.
We are wired that way.
Right. So the text introduces Bhakti Yoga, defining it as a genuine, real search after the Lord that begins, continues, and ends in love. So it's not about complex intellectual gymnastics or studying ancient texts for decades. It's just love.
That's the beauty of it. And the sources emphasize why Bhakti stands completely alone compared to other spiritual paths.
Like what?
Well, for instance, there is Karma Yoga, the path of action, or Jnana Yoga, the path of deep philosophical knowledge. Now, those are valid paths, but they're often pursued with an objective in mind.
Like reaching a goal.
Right. You might do good works to purify your mind, or you might seek knowledge to eventually understand the nature of reality. They are tools to reach a destination. But bhakti is unique because it is its own fruition.
Meaning the journey is the destination.
Exactly. It is its own means and it is its own end. You don't love just to achieve some other higher state. The act of loving is the highest state itself.
That sounds incredibly poetic, but let me play devil's advocate here. That raises a really practical problem for the human mind, doesn't it?
Let's hear it.
If the goal is to love the universe, how do you, as a finite human being with a very limited brain, actually direct your love toward a vast, infinite, formless reality? It's like trying to hug the concept of gravity.
Or fall in love with dark matter.
Exactly. It's way too abstract. Does the philosophy acknowledge that this is basically impossible for the average person?
It absolutely does, and it resolves this problem through the philosophy of Ishvara, or the personal God.
Okay, Ishvara.
Let's break this down. The philosophy asks us to think of the absolute reality, the infinite formless universe, which in Sanskrit is called Brahman, as a massive lump of unformed clay. It is the raw substance of everything.
Just pure potential.
Right. But as pure unformed clay, it is extremely difficult for the human mind to grasp, let alone feel an intense, personal, weeping love for. You can't cuddle with abstract infinity.
Yeah. I love you, giant cosmic lump of nothingness. Doesn't quite roll off the tongue.
It really doesn't. So Ishvara, the personal God, is the highest possible manifestation of that clay, formed into a shape that the human mind can comprehend.
Okay, that makes sense.
Think of it as the absolute reality read through the limited lens of human perception. When you put on red-tinted glasses, the world looks red.
Right.
When the infinite universe passes through the human mind, it takes on human attributes, compassion, love, personality. So the devotee practicing bhakti isn't worshiping a different god than the philosopher who contemplates the infinite.
You're just seeing it differently.
Yes. They are approaching the exact same infinite reality through a form that allows for an outpouring of human emotion.
Okay, so Ishvara is like a user interface for the universe.
I like that.
The underlying code of a computer is just ones and zeros. That's the abstract Brahman. But the average person can't interact with ones and zeros. We need a desktop with folders and a mouse. That's Ishvara.
That's a great analogy.
It's the same machine, just translated so we can actually use it. And because the human mind needs forms and interfaces to grasp the formless, Vivekananda actually defends a lot of things that modern enlightened thinkers love to dismiss as pure superstition.
He defends them strongly.
Yeah, he doesn't dismiss rituals or going to a specific temple or using statues and images or offering flowers and incense. He actually calls them the kindergartens of religion.
And that metaphor is spot on. You don't mock a 5-year-old child for needing physical wooden blocks to learn basic math.
Of course not.
You wouldn't say, why are you using blocks? Math is abstract. The blocks are absolutely necessary to make the child's mind strong enough to eventually grasp the abstract concepts.
It's foundational.
Exactly. In the same way, you shouldn't mock a person for needing an image, a ritual, or a specific sacred building to learn how to focus their love on the divine. They are necessary stepping stones.
Which is such a refreshing take, because today there's this weird snobbery where people say, I'm spiritual but not religious. I don't need any of those silly rituals. But Vivekananda is saying, maybe you do need them, at least for a while.
Most of us do.
And that leads to a vital concept in this path called Ishta Nishtha. Now, I'm looking at the translation, and it means devotion to a chosen ideal. What exactly does that look like in practice?
It's the ultimate antidote to spiritual distraction. While the philosophy acknowledges that all paths and all forms, whether it's Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, or simply the abstract concept of love are valid manifestations of the divine, it insists that for a person to actually make real progress, they must choose one specific ideal and stick with it.
Just one.
Yes. It's a matter of focused energy. You cannot dig 10 shallow holes in your backyard and expect to find water. You have to pick one spot and dig one deep hole.
I love the story from the notes used to illustrate this. There's this beautiful legend about the pearl oyster.
Oh, the pearl
According
oyster.
to the story, the pearl oyster leaves its bed at the dark bottom of the ocean and floats all the way up to the surface. It opens its shell wide and waits, but it's not waiting for just any water, and it's not trying to swallow the whole ocean.
Right.
It waits specifically for a single drop of rain that falls only when a very specific star, the star Swati, is ascendant. Once it catches that one single specific drop of rain, it snaps its shell completely shut, dives deep back down to the quiet ocean floor, and rests there until it fashions that single drop into a beautiful, perfect pearl.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the relevance for you, the listener, is incredibly striking, especially today.
How so?
The text describes a psychological condition called religious drink mania.
Religious drink mania. Is that essentially 1890 speak for doom scrolling or podcast hopping?
That is exactly what it is. It's the modern habit of bouncing from one new idea to another. You read a self-help book here, you listen to a motivational deep dive there, you watch a 60-second clip on Stoicism, you go to a weekend retreat.
Always looking for the next thing.
Oh, just to get a temporary nervous thrill, a little hit of intellectual dopamine. But you never actually commit to practicing any of it. It treats spirituality and self-improvement like intellectual opium eating. You're just chasing the high of a new idea.
So we're basically oysters, sitting on the surface with our shells wide open, just letting it rain constantly, but never actually diving down to make a pearl.
Precisely. The lesson of the pearl oyster is that true growth requires finding your one drop, your chosen ideal, whatever that may be, and then shutting out the noise.
Closing the shell.
Closing the shell.
Yeah.
You have to dive deep into the quiet depths of your own soul and do the hard, focused work of fashioning it into realization. You cannot skim the surface of 100 different philosophies and expect to produce a pearl.
That is such a vivid visual. Okay, so let's say I've found my drop. I'm isolating my focus, and I'm diving deep. The text says that eventually you transition from that preparatory stage into what it calls parabhakti, or supreme devotion.
The higher stage.
But to cross that threshold, you have to pass through a word that, honestly, usually makes people run for the hills. The word is renunciation.
Yeah, that's a loaded word.
Let's be real. When modern people hear renunciation, we immediately picture torturing the body, giving up everything we enjoy, throwing away our smartphones, breaking up with our partners, and living a miserable, dry life in a cave eating moss.
That is absolutely the common, deeply ingrained misconception. We view renunciation as a violent tearing away of the things we love. But the Bhakti's version, the path of love's version of renunciation, is entirely different.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the sources explicitly state that in this path, renunciation requires absolutely no violence, no forced suppression, and no harshness to yourself whatsoever.
None at all.
You don't have to grit your teeth and tear yourself away from the world. How is that possible? If you're renouncing something, aren't you forcing yourself to give it up?
Not if it happens naturally. The analogy provided here is brilliant in its simplicity. Think of the light of the stars in the night sky.
Okay.
They are beautiful and they provide light. But when the moon rises and shines brightly, the stars naturally become dim to our eyes.
You don't even notice them.
You don't have to reach up into the sky and forcibly turn off the stars. And when morning comes and the sun rises in its full blazing glory, even the moon fades away entirely.
Wow.
In the exact same way, as a person begins to experience the higher, more intense bliss of spiritual love, the lower pleasures of the senses and the ego simply drop off naturally.
So you're not fighting your desires.
Mm.
The lesser light just naturally fades because you found a brighter light.
Exactly. It is a completely painless, smooth-flowing process. The renunciation of the Bhakti is not about killing your desires or hating the world. It's about outgrowing them.
Outgrowing them.
Think of it like a child outgrowing a toy. You don't have to violently rip a teddy bear out of the hands of a 25-year-old. They just naturally stopped caring about it because their interests evolved into more complex, fulfilling things.
That makes the concept so much more approachable. And this brings us to what might be the most mind-bending concept in the entire stack of notes. This completely shattered my assumptions.
Let's hear it.
The text argues that absolutely all love, even the most selfish, worldly, or even destructive love, is actually a manifestation of divine love.
Yes.
It uses the example of fire. The exact same fire that cooks a warm meal for a family can also burn a child. It's not the fault of the fire. The energy itself is completely neutral. The difference lies entirely in the direction and application of that energy.
This is a profound psychological insight, and it's one of the core pillars of Vivekananda's message. He points out that the thief who breaks into a house to steal gold and the philanthropist who writes a massive check to build a hospital for the poor are both being driven by the exact same cosmic motive power.
They are both driven by love.
They are both driven by love.
Whoa, stop right there. The guy stealing a TV from a house is utilizing divine energy. The guy embezzling millions from a pension fund is driven by love.
You're going to have to do a little heavy lifting to convince me of that.
I know it sounds completely counterintuitive, but strip away the moral judgment for a second and look at the raw mechanics of the action. What forces the thief to act?
Greed.
Yes, but what is greed? It is an intense magnetic attraction to the gold, or to the security the gold represents. That gravitational pull of attraction, that inability to stay away from the object of desire, is, at its core, love. In the case of the thief, that love is intensely misdirected. It is pointed downward toward a selfish material object, and it causes harm. But the raw energy itself, the power to be drawn to something outside oneself, is divine.
Okay, I see what you're saying. The engine in the car is the exact same engine, whether you're driving to a charity event or driving to rob a bank. The engine isn't evil. The steering wheel is just pointed in the wrong direction. That's a perfect modern equivalent. The goal of Bhakti Yoga, therefore, is not to destroy human passions or emotions.
Which is
This is where so many ascetic traditions go wrong. If you destroy your passions, if you kill your capacity to intensely desire something, you have no engine left. You just become an empty shell.
right, you're just numb.
The goal is to grab hold of those existing powerful passions and unfailingly steer them upward toward the highest ideal. You take the intense, maddening love a person might have for money or fame or a romantic partner, and you redirect that exact same intensity toward the universe itself.
You don't kill the emotion, you just elevate the target. That is incredibly empowering. It means your flaws, your intense obsessions, might actually be your greatest spiritual assets if you just aim them differently.
Exactly.
And once that love is directed upward, the text says it takes on a very specific geometry. It outlines what it calls the triangle of love. There are three angles, three essential characteristics that must be present for this love to be considered true. Supreme devotion.
Let's examine the first angle. The first angle of this triangle is that love knows no bargaining.
No bargaining.
True love cannot be a transaction. The text is quite strict about this. It states that if you worship God or the universe to get wealth or to get a promotion at work or to cure an illness, or even if you worship just to avoid going to hell after you die, that is not true bhakti. That is what Vivekananda calls shopkeeping religion.
Shopkeeping religion. I feel like that describes about 95% of how humanity interacts with the divine. We're essentially treating the universe like a cosmic vending machine.
Put in a coin, get a blessing.
Yeah. I put in 3 prayers and an hour of meditation, now dispense my promotion. It reminds me of the modern manifestation and hustle culture, where spirituality is just a tool to get a bigger house or a better parking spot.
Exactly. It's a beggar's religion. You are approaching the infinite just to ask for petty favors. The philosophy points out the absurdity of this. You don't look at a magnificent, awe-inspiring mountain landscape and demand that the mountain do you a favor in return for your admiration.
The vision of the beauty is its own complete reward.
To ask for something in return lowers the divine to the level of a commercial exchange. True love never asks, "What's in it for me?"
Which is such a massive challenge to how most of us operate. We are wired for transactions. But the true bhakta asks for nothing. Then we move to the second angle. Love knows no fear. And there is a really striking example provided for this.
Lion and the baby.
Yes. Imagine a frail, gentle woman walking down the street and a dog suddenly barks aggressively at her. She might be terrified and run into the nearest house to hide. She is easily frightened.
Right.
But suppose the very next day she is walking down that exact same street with her child and a lion springs at the baby. Right. Where is that frail woman now? She doesn't run away. She is right in the lion's mouth doing everything she can to save her child. In a split second, love has completely obliterated all her fear.
That is the perfect illustration of how love functions. And when we apply this to Parabhakti, the supreme devotion to the divine, the true lover of God fears nothing. They do not fear the judgments of society. They do not fear poverty. They do not fear misery. They do not even fear death.
Fear is just gone.
Because if we analyze it, fear fundamentally stems from a selfish desire to protect the ego, to protect the body. But if your love is entirely focused outward on the beloved, on the universe, the self is forgotten. And when the self is forgotten, fear vanishes entirely. You can't be afraid if there's no you left to protect.
That is profound, and that leads right into the third and final angle of the triangle. Love is for love's sake. The devotee loves simply because they cannot help but love.
It's natural.
It is their very nature, just
Yes.
as it is the nature of the moth to be drawn to the flame. And what's really interesting here is that love becomes its own proof.
How do you mean?
Well, philosophers will debate for hours trying to prove the existence of God with logic and reason. But you don't need a judge or a magistrate or a philosopher's logical argument to prove the existence of your spouse or your child or someone you love deeply. You feel them. It's self-evident.
Absolutely.
To the bhakta, God is love personified, and the act of loving that divine presence is the highest cosmic enjoyment. There's no need for debate.
Now, setting up a triangle of love where you ask for nothing, fear nothing, and love just for the sake of loving, that is an incredibly high bar.
Very high.
To make this abstract, dizzying height of love attainable for regular people, Bhakti Yoga does something highly practical. It utilizes the exact templates of ordinary human relationships to help the devotee connect with the infinite. It doesn't ask you to invent a new alien way of feeling. It asks you to use the feelings you already know intimately.
Yes, the 5 forms of connection. This is where the philosophy feels so deeply human. It breaks down how we relate to the divine into 5 stages or attitudes. The first 2 are sort of the foundational stages. There is Shanta, which the text describes as a calm, peaceful love. What does that actually look like in practice?
Shanta is the love you might see in a philosopher or a deeply contemplative person. It is tranquil. It's the feeling you get looking at a quiet, starry night.
3.
There is no great emotional turbulence, no weeping or intense drama. It is a steady, unshakable conviction that the universe is harmonious. But it lacks the fiery intimacy of the higher stages.
I got it. It's peaceful, but maybe a bit distant. Then there is the second form, dasya, which is the love of a faithful servant to a master.
Right. Think of the intense loyalty a dedicated employee might have for a visionary boss or a soldier for a revered commander. It's an attitude of dedicated service, immense respect, and duty.
Service-oriented.
The devotee feels, I am your servant, tell me what to do. It's a beautiful state, but there's still a hierarchy. There's still a gap between the master and the servant.
But the next 3 are where that gap completely closes. and it gets really deeply intimate. Let's look at Sakya, which translates to friendship. In this state, the devotee views God not as a distant ruler on a throne, but as a friend and an equal playmate. The text introduces a remarkable concept here. It suggests that the entire universe is simply a playground.
This is one of the most liberating ideas in the text. Think about why humans create things. We usually create because we lack something. We build a house because we lack shelter.
We're always trying to fill a void.
Exactly. But God, or the Absolute, is perfect and infinite. It lacks nothing. Therefore, it doesn't need to create the universe out of any necessity. So why does the universe exist? The philosophy says it is created out of pure sport, out of fun.
Fun.
It is Leela, divine play. We are all essentially his playmates, his chessmen on the board.
We are his chessmen. I really love that. It takes so much pressure off our daily anxieties. We get so caught up in the drama of our careers, our mortgages, our social status. We think it's life or death.
It feels like life or death.
But when a person realizes that all the intense, dramatic struggles of life are ultimately part of this cosmic game, the heavy, crushing misery of the world simply vanishes. It becomes a joyful sport. You can play the game, you can try to win, but you don't cry when the Monopoly board gets put away.
Exactly. It removes the sting of failure. But the next relationship is even more surprising, and frankly, it flips the traditional religious script completely upside down. It's called Vatsalya, and it's the relationship of a parent to a child. But instead of looking at God as a father or mother who provides for you and protects you, the devotee approaches God as their own child.
Wait, you view the infinite creator of the universe as a baby? How does that even work?
The psychological reasoning behind this reversal is absolutely brilliant. Think about how we treat our parents versus how we treat a baby. When we approach a parent, even as adults, there is often an underlying expectation that they will protect us, provide for us, or give us guidance.
It's transactional on some level.
It's a relationship where we receive. But you never approach a newborn baby and ask it for a favor. You never ask a baby for money or protection or promotion at work.
Right. You'd be crazy to ask a baby for anything.
Your only instinct toward a child is to give. You want to nurture it, protect it, and love it unconditionally, expecting absolutely nothing in return. By deliberately viewing the divine as a child, the devotee completely eliminates every last trace of selfishness, fear, or expectation from their worship.
Wow.
They force themselves into the position of the pure giver. They become the protector of their own chosen ideal.
That is such a genius way to trick the ego into letting go of its demands. You literally engineer a relationship where it's impossible to be selfish. And that total unselfishness prepares the heart for the highest, most intense culmination of love, which the text calls Mathura.
The sweetest love.
This is the love of the lover and the beloved, and this is the romantic, all-consuming passion where all separation finally breaks down. There was a Persian poem quoted in the notes that perfectly captures this absolute union.
It's a beautiful poem. Would you share it?
Yes, it goes like this. A lover knocks on the door of his beloved. A voice from inside asks, "Who is there?" The lover answers, "It is I." But the door remains closed.
He's still separate.
Exactly. So he waits and he knocks a second time. Again, the voice asks, "Who is there?" He answers, "I am here." Still, the door stays closed. Finally, he understands the problem. He knocks a third time, and when the voice asks, "Who is there?" he says, "I am thyself, my beloved." And only then does the door open.
This raises an important question. How do we practically achieve this perfect union? Because that poem is beautiful, but in real life, how does the I and the thou completely dissolve?
It's a leap.
How does a worshiper actually realize they are one with the entire universe? Because if I'm practicing bhakti, I might start by loving one specific form like we talked about with the pearl oyster. But how do we move from loving that specific chosen ideal to loving the totality of existence?
Right, because if I just love my family or my specific religion's prophet, I'm still excluding the rest of the world.
Precisely. The text answers this by introducing two philosophical concepts, Samashti and Vyashti.
Okay, let's break those down. What are Samashti and Vyashti?
Samashti refers to the generalized universal whole. It is the sum total of absolutely everything in existence. Vyashti refers to the particularized part, the individual things, the specific people, the animals, the plants we see around us.
The details.
Now, the text points out a logical problem. If you try to truly love the universe by loving one individual person, and then the next person, and then the next dog, and then the next tree, it would take you an eternity.
You'd never finish.
There are 8 billion people and infinite organisms. You could never finish the task of loving the world by loving its parts sequentially.
It's mathematically impossible.
Therefore, you must love the samashti, the whole, which is God. The analogy used here is simple, but incredibly powerful. You don't water every individual leaf and every single twig of a tree to keep it alive. If you did, the tree would die before you finished.
Right, you water the root.
Instead, you grasp the root and water the root. By watering the root, you automatically nourish the whole tree all the way to the farthest leaf. By loving the Samashti, by loving God, you automatically love the entire universe and everything in it.
And when you reach this level, when you are successfully watering the root, the way you see the world fundamentally changes. The text explains that when this level of parabhakti is reached, the devotees stop seeing individual labels. They stop seeing man or animal or tiger or enemy.
The boundaries vanish.
Those dividing lines just blur and fall away. They only see God manifesting in different forms. Every single face is the face of the beloved.
Which culminates in the ultimate final state of self-surrender, a state called Apratikulya. This is perfect resignation to the universe. In this state, the devotee's mindset becomes completely unresisting.
It's resisting.
The text describes it vividly, let things come as they may. The devotee says, welcome pain, welcome misery, welcome serpent. They do not fight against the currents of life anymore because they see the divine hand in everything, even the things that hurt.
Okay, I have to jump in here because my modern brain is screaming at this. Welcome pain, welcome serpent. Isn't that just giving up? Isn't that a form of toxic passivity? If I have an illness or if someone is attacking me, am I just supposed to say welcome misery and let it happen?
It's a fair question, and it's where Eastern philosophy often clashes with Western proactive thinking. But Apratikulya is not passive victimhood. It is not giving up. It is the realization that your resistance to reality causes more suffering than the reality itself.
The resistance is the problem.
The root cause of our frantic resistance, the text argues, is the body idea. It's the stubborn, deeply ingrained delusion that we are nothing but this physical flesh, and that we must frantically protect it, comfort it, and preserve it at all costs.
That makes sense.
That body idea is the root of all selfishness. When you finally realize you are not the body, but the eternal spirit, the serpent's bite might hurt the physical form, but it cannot touch you. The pain is welcome not because it feels good, but because it is recognized as just another wave in the ocean of the beloved.
So what does this all mean? It means that when you finally give up that frantic, exhausting struggle to preserve the selfish ego, when you stop fighting the universe and realize you are an inseparable part of it, you tap into a peace that passes all understanding. You stop being a separate, isolated drop fighting against the current of the river, and you realize you are the ocean.
To synthesize this incredible journey we've been on today, we started on the shores of Chicago in 1893, where Vivekananda delivered a radical message of universal acceptance, telling us all paths lead to the same ocean.
We explored the frog in the well.
We move through the preparatory stages of devotion, seeing how we can use our natural human emotions, our focus on a chosen ideal, and even physical rituals as stepping stones.
The kindergartens of religion.
We saw how the lower desires of the senses don't need to be violently destroyed. They naturally shed away like stars fading in the sunrise of a higher love. And we climb right to the dizzying heights of supreme, fearless, unbargaining love, where the lover and the beloved merge into one, and we can welcome whatever the universe brings.
And for you, the listener, navigating a modern world that is completely obsessed with transactions, a world that constantly asks what we can get out of our networking, our romantic relationships, our careers, and even our meditation apps. Vivekananda's message is a radical, almost shocking invitation.
It truly is.
It is an invitation to simply give, to love for love's sake, to find that one ideal, shut out the noise of the world, dive deep, and realize that the love inside you isn't just a chemical reaction in your brain. It is the exact same force that holds the stars together.
I want to leave the listener with a final thought taken directly from the text. It's a massive perspective shift. To the ordinary, worldly mind, a person who lives entirely by this unselfish, unbargaining love seems completely out of their mind.
Crazy.
They are going against the entire current of a capitalist, ego-driven society. But as one devotee in the text answered when accused of being crazy, the whole world is a lunatic asylum. Some are mad after money, some after name, some after fame. In this big lunatic asylum, I am also mad, but I am mad after God. I think my madness is after all the best.
What an incredible quote to end on. In the grand lunatic asylum of modern life, with all its endless distractions, its social media metrics, and its constant transactions, what are you choosing to be mad after? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive for the Simplified Summary channel. If this journey through Vivekananda's profound philosophy sparked something in you today, please remember to hit subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who appreciates the deeper, unbargaining things in life. It helps us keep bringing you these nuggets of wisdom. Until next time, keep diving deep.